start. Oh, go ahead, John.
Okay, it is April 1st, April Fool's Day at 8:30, and we are in Niskayuna Town Hall beginning the Economic Development, Historic Preservation, and Environmental Conservation Committee. Boy, that's a long name.
Mm-hmm.
We will start with the roll call.
I see Kevin Walsh, Chairman of the Planning Board, Matthew Yetto, Supervisor Puccioni, Dart Strayer, Chairman of the CAC, Dennis Brennan, Town Historian, Susan Polsinelli, and Seth Goldstein are in the audience. And we have a visitor. Marie Bozeman is in the audience. And then Chairman Delarada.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Robertson. And do we have any public comments or concerns?
I didn't receive any.
Okay, and that brings us to the minutes of February 4th, 2022. Are there any additions or modifications that anybody proposes to those minutes?
I'll make a motion for adoption.
I second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that will carry unanimously. And then that brings us to the land acknowledgement statement, Ms. Robertson. Or Mr.
Yeah, I'm turning that one over to Dennis.
All right.
In your packet, he has a description of it, and he also has hard copies for anybody who wants them today.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just a one-page summary of, what a land acknowledgement statement is and what it is not. Some reasons why we should participate in having a land acknowledgement statement, and then the steps we need to go through to get this done. Identify the traditional inhabitants of the area. I've already done that. It's the Mohawk and the Mohegan, although I do have to learn how to pronounce their names in their own language. Then put together a statement. I've done that as well. There's at least a suggested statement. And then decide what meetings we're going to read this at. Will it just be the town board meeting, or will it be maybe all of the main committees in town? Then the fourth part is probably the most difficult, because this involves sort of a long-term commitment to taking some action to build a relationship, a cooperative and mutually beneficial relationship between the indigenous peoples that are still in the area, not just in Niskayuna. There might be some in Niskayuna, but there's certainly some out in the to the west of us here. Fonda, I guess, in the Fonda area, they do have a Mohawk community out there. Build some sort of a relationship, nothing extensive or expensive, but just a recognition of them on a regular basis, maybe annually, do something together. Some of us go out there and some of them come here, something along those lines. But that's something I think that has to move forward with the land acknowledgement statement.
Thanks. That's all right.
So at this point, we talked about it at the last meeting. I wanted to put something together to make sure people understood what this is. And I will move forward with working to finalize the statement. And then I'm certainly interested in your perspective about when or where we should be reading this. What meeting should we do it at? For my money, I'd just as soon do it at the monthly town board meeting, certainly. And then, as I said, the other 5 main meetings that we have. And maybe leave it as an option for all the other committees if you want to do it.
Sure. No, I agree. The more, the better. And I'm reading a book right now called Drums Along the Mohawk. And that's a really great book for the, how this area played in the independence of our country. I don't know if that's required reading, but it should be, certainly in the Niskayuna High School. Great little history lesson on our local community. Well, thank you, Mr. Brennan. And I think that brings us to our resolutions.
Well, I would just say that because the planning board deals so much with land, and Kevin, I don't know how you feel about it. I feel like it would be appropriate to read at the planning board potentially, And then when Dennis came to give me the materials on this yesterday, I still can't remember what meeting it was. It could have been like, I recently was at a virtual meeting in General Capital Region, and they did read a land acknowledgement.
Excellent.
And it was just kind of like good. It was timing because he hadn't written this yet, but he had brought it up. Then I was attending a meeting where they actually read a land acknowledgement statement, and then he had this for our meeting. So I don't think we'd be the only one.
Yeah, Laura, I should just suggest we put it on the agenda for our next meeting, and we'll discuss it with the planning board members and see what they all think.
So, so I only have 3 resolutions for the town board meeting that I could think of. The resolution for adoption of the historic preservation code. So I attached that to your packet. Based on the public hearing that we held, we made some changes to the code in red. The main thing was under section 130-5. We changed it to demolition or relocation of any building or structure. I think probably partly because the relocation of a historic structure can compromise the integrity of the historic parcel, which we learned on Mansion Square and potentially some other areas. Then under 130-5, number 6, when we kind of going through the different iterations of this code, we had originally allowed time for the historic committee to document the demolition if needed, and that got removed when we put in the town board being the final say on that. So number 6 is just adding back the ability for the commission to document anything of historic importance during the final demolition. Or so in number 6 it says prior to, but we want to put prior to or during the demolition, because Dennis was just saying that sometimes they uncover hidden doorways and things. So and then we had talked about number 8, substantial renovation. I actually didn't think it'd be possible to submit all substantial renovations to the historic committee, but if there was a site that was listed on the town historic registrar and they wanted to have a substantial renovation, I put that they would be subject to the same code for demolition, just so that they can have a double check and they're not destroying the integrity of the home by adding like a giant modern glass wing to it or something, basically.
How did we come up with the 49 years? What's that benchmark is? Why is that significant, Mr. Brannan?
49 years is, 50 years actually is the standard cutoff for making the first decision about whether a house would be considered historic. It's in the National Register of Historic Places. It's in New York State Registry, and in most registries that I've come across. So it's just like, first step is this over 50 years old? Then you can begin to consider whether it has any significance to town history, whether there's any person associated with the building that should be saved. So it's just a very basic starting point.
Thank you.
And I believe it's also a legal threshold too. I know that when we were challenged on the historic determination that we were making for 1380 Van Antwerp, the lawyer had come and said the legal definition of something being historic in New York State is over 49 years, or possibly, like you said, that's like the first, but yeah. So
looks like we're missing a definition for substantial renovation still.
oh yeah, so these were the things that came up at the town board meeting, but Elena's not here, so she's gonna have to actually do the legal language. I just wanted to make sure that we talked publicly about the changes. But yes, we also would add a definition of substantial renovation so it'd be clear. It would probably come similar to what we have in our floodplain code, is my guess. It'd be 50% of the value or the percent of the structure or something like that. There's guidance on substantial renovation, but we figured it should be defined because the gray area.
Would you put like a key feature of what makes the house or structure historic? Like, for example, if there was an element.
Like a fireplace or something for.
Well, I wouldn't be specific, but if there was a defining feature of that structure would that be considered a major renovation that might render the property
Not historic anymore.
I would think I might consider that.
Yeah, I'll have Elena look at that to do.
Mhm.
And then the last thing that we added was I had originally looked through code and thought that there might be like ways to leverage it, through other penalties within the code, but it was a gray area and it came up at the public hearing that we don't really have penalties. So just took our standard offenses and penalties for offensive offenses in most of our code: noise, building, planning, zoning. They're all similarly written. Um, the only thing that I changed was because I was concerned, like typically for a building violation or even a tree coming down violation, the penalty is $500. That's not really a deterrent in this case because, like if somebody is under a stop work order for the town, over like putting a roof on their home or something. I mean, $500 is an annoyance and it accumulates over a couple days, so it could be a deterrent. But in this case, I mean, if you're talking about $100,000 or $300,000, to them, it's got to be more than $500, and it's going to be harder for the offense to carry from day to day. So I recommended at least a $5,000 penalty for offense. I mean, I probably like it higher, but we don't really have anything that much higher in our code.
One other thing I'd like to suggest, we had, we talked briefly about this yesterday. In addition to demolition or relocation, I don't know the right language, but some sort of language in there with development that encroaches on historic property. And I'm thinking of 1380 Van Antwerp. In that, it wasn't directly affecting the building itself, but if there does development could undermine the historic value of the location of a building.
Yes, that was a comment I had at the planning board level also, to include development of historically significant property or land. Because, as you stated, Dennis, if we can have areas of the town that are considered historic without an actual building on them, what if they want to make a subdivision out of that land, right?
Yes.
I agree.
Okay. Sorry, Dennis had mentioned that to me and I had forgot to put that in there for red. I think that's probably another section, so it'd probably be like 130-6 sort of development, and that can just also sort of put the same guidance for section 135 into development that is maybe directly adjacent to or some kind of direct nexus to a historic property.
You'll probably have to come up with some
A buffer.
specific like guidelines.
Yeah, like either directly adjacent to or within like 500 feet or something like that.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Because I think otherwise it's vague and it becomes
Mhm.
problematic.
I agree. All right, very well. Is there anything further on that?
Now, I'd just like to add, Dennis and the team, historic team are doing a wonderful job with all the articles and the amount of effort they've been putting in. It's very apparent. And thanks, Dr. Brennan, for your leadership over there.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Appreciate that.
Yes, it is very evident. A lot of time and effort went into this, Dennis. Thank you.
And it'll definitely help. So, the second one I have is a resolution recognizing Arbor Day 2022. We have a Arbor Day scheduled for April 23rd from 11 to 1. And we'll be planting a red bud and it's a pretty fancy dogwood on the town green and giving away, I think we have actually 17 different types of trees for residents to choose from. So there's got to be something that you would like in those choices. And we're going to have a bunch of booths. So Mohawk Hudson Land Conservancy is going to come. The Schenectady Soil and Water Conservation is going to come. There'll be like lots of people for anybody to come and talk to about their trees or their seeds. So I think it's shaping up to be a really fun event, and the Tree Council is finalizing a great Arbor Day tree hunt to have kids go and look for our old Arbor Day trees. So we've been planting Arbor Day trees since 2016. Ray's going to help me put the plaques up, and then there's a the tree council is going to roll out a like a sort of like a search and find, where if they can go and find all 6 of the Arbor Day trees that we planted since 2016, they can turn it in for a prize at Arbor Day. So it's going to be really fun. We're really excited. Even last night we were working on it, as a subcommittee. So I'm looking forward to rolling out more details on that, and I hope that you guys can come. We'll pass the proclamation, I think, actually after Arbor Day, but I'm hoping that like Jamie and maybe John, if you guys could come and read the proclamation when we're planting the tree, or would be great. We wanted to plant it very early in the ceremony, probably like 11, so that people can then wander around and talk to all the people in the booths and get their trees. Because most people come for the trees, but there'll be lots of other stuff for them to do when they come.
Yes, that would be great. And I can make it. Usually this falls on my vacation with the kids' school break, but I will be here this April. So looking forward to coming. Thanks, Laura.
It is still the tail end of the school break, but I'm hoping that we'll still get a bunch of kids. So,
Excellent.
and then the last one is a resolution creating a comprehensive plan committee. I do have a fair number of names. I think I know Dennis wants to help. We've got a couple planning board members. I've had Priti Arini wants to help. So I think we have a decent number of names that we could put together to get a formal comprehensive plan committee going at the end of this month. And I think that was our target from last month. So I put that on here.
Excellent.
And I didn't, if anybody hadn't missed anything, they needed anything added to the agenda. Okay.
Nope.
So really quick, Supervisor Puccioni and I met with New York State about potentially adding Lions Park to the New York State Birding Trail. It was a very exciting meeting. I appreciate the supervisor putting that together. The applications attached to the packet, it's just a fun thing where we could put on a birding trail and people can come and select the birds that they see at Lions Park. It gives them good direction. The only thing that's holding me up from submitting this application is I need a nice picture of Lions Park. So if anybody has a nice picture of Lions Park, this picture would be what they put on the New York State website when you go to click on Lions Park. So it would be the icon. And I, have a lot of pictures, and Lori was looking for one for me, but I don't have a good picture of Lions Park. So if anybody's got one, feel free to send it to me. That's the last thing we need to submit that, and that's going to be really fun.
I thought we had several in our art exhibits over the years of Lions
The
Park.
paintings,
The
yeah,
paintings,
they're beautiful.
Absolutely.
And then the EV charging station updates. I had a resident call. They were trying to charge at Lions Park, but I believe the Lions Park ones aren't turned on yet, but they will be very shortly. The Blatnick Park ones are turned on, I believe, so you can go and check them out. And the River Road ones are being installed within the next couple days. So they're moving along quite quickly. And then the dumpster enclosure codes and requirements, like I think Elena and I are still working on that. It's an ongoing process there.
Excellent.
Planning board has been working really hard with GE. I know you mentioned that at the town board meeting, John. It's very exciting to see that new building going up. They convinced GE to add some windows on the facade that's facing River Road, so that's good. GE is willing to meet with Tree Council and CAC, and they're going to plant some more trees along the bike path to shield that building and stuff. So they've been good to work with. And I think that we'll probably be looking to finalizing that building towards the end of April. But just as everything with COVID, the ordering of those materials and stuff it's a ways out. So you probably actually won't see any activity on that site still for a while. We also have a site plan potentially going to the planning board for upgrades to Goodyear Tire on State Street. And then Starbucks wants to increase some of its outdoor seating over in ShopRite Plaza. So we'll be taking a look at that in April at the planning board as well. We've got 5 cases for zoning board. I see Beth is in the audience. Hello, Beth. She was very kindly organizing a grant meeting so that we can figure out how we're moving forward with the Climate Smart Community Grant. And then I've been I think working on the Community Forest Conservation Grant Program, which is what I talked to you guys about. I think at the last meeting, it's a round 1 of a program that New York State came out to preserve public forest lands. They have to be more than 10 acres, or private forest lands to become public. and it's a 90%, 10% match. So I had a couple ideas that I was working on. I don't think we'll be able to submit. The timeline is just too short, but I think even the exercise of going through and reaching out to landowners and identifying these forests has been really beneficial. And we've made some good connections for conservation in the future. So I'm still pretty happy with, I'm happy with that grant in general. And I think even just working on it has moved our community forward a little bit. Did anybody have questions on any of those?
What areas were you able to look at for
So-
the?
So, I mean, so I was looking at some areas along the Mohawk, and then I was looking at some areas adjacent to the rice sanctuary.
Mhm.
And I feel like we made inroads in both places. It's just that grant was released on February 2nd, and the submittal date is April 13th. So, I mean, actually, everybody would be struggling with that timeline. That's a super short timeline, but even just reaching out and talking to people and seeing, and I'm hoping that that grant will continually come out, and so we'll be competitive on the next round.
Is there area around the Rice Bird Sanctuary? It's usually, there's neighborhoods kind of surround that.
Yeah, there's still some areas
there?
there that I think would be beneficial to fold in.
That's a really nice sanctuary.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. When I looked at the grant, when you sent it out, the timeline was extremely short for what they asked, unless you had something shovel ready.
Mhm.
You know, the one advantage to submitting in round one is it was short for everyone, so it may be less competitive the first time. So I sure did try. But I imagine the second round will be very competitive. But
Mhm. But you think you'll be able to get something in by that day? No. Okay. Yeah.
there's a lot of like timelines, like time crunching that you
Mhm.
have to do to get it to work.
Understandable.
So Complete Streets is working on their priority letters. They sent these out last year. They're just kind of a notification to our partners, the county, the state, the school, on what we're working on to make connections with them. We had requested coordination with the schools on to do traffic mitigation for their capital project. We did meet with them. I think we still have some more work to do with them. So we're going to keep trying to meet with the schools on that. And then I'm just keeping it on here. I know it's bonded, so the money doesn't even get released until the summer. But the Plum Street sidewalk, I think, will be the big thing for us to do this year.
And how far along are we with that with financing?
So it's kind of a Beth question, but it got rolled into our bonding.
Mhm.
But I don't think our bonding goes into effect until like June, right? June.
It's on for the end of this month.
Oh. Okay, Beth just said it's on for the end of this month.
Okay.
See, she knows more about this than I do. I am just very grateful because I believe this is the first time we've ever bonded for a Complete Streets project. So I really think that that's really important as a next step. We've been talking about Complete Streets for a while. We've been having the developers do Complete Streets, but I think this is the first time the town is truly taking the step to make a pretty critical connection from Van Antwerp to the Hillside Elementary School for safety. So very excited about it and thankful that that was put in there.
Thank you.
So for tree council, I really wanted to thank the highway department. I've been calling them every day, I would say, for like the last week, to coordinate stuff for Arbor Day. They do a ton of work on Arbor Day. And then also there was a lot of invasive species around the Rexford traffic circle. And I marked them and they took them down. And these aren't like friendly invasive species. I have a picture of the thorns. I still have a thorn stuck in my finger from when I was marking the trees. They're like that big. And the highway guys, they went down there and they got all of the black locust out so that the oaks and the maples and everything that were planted by the state can keep growing there because they were being shaded out. So I really appreciated that work. That was really awesome that they did that. Oh, and also a thank you to the highway department. They did order the Lomo initiative signs for Blatnick Park, and they're up in my office. And I'm also working with them on installing them this spring. So that is very exciting. I wanted to tag on. I received information from a couple residents. It's called Lomo May. I got it from a couple people, and it's a program that's taking hold in Wisconsin where people don't mow their lawns for the month of May. I think probably because they're not growing. They're still sort of smaller, which is probably why they pick May, but it's also very beneficial for the bees. They've shown a coordination between not mowing the residential lawns in May and a pretty explosive bee, because they don't really have a lot of nectar. And there's so much of our environment that is taken over by lawns that if you allow the lawns to grow a little bit longer in May, it gives them a little nectar and they don't starve. So I think they've shown that by growing your lawn a little bit longer in May, you can get the bees through the hardest time of the year for them. I recognize that it's might be slightly different for something to do in Niskayuna because people were still working on the lawn care. But, I did receive it from a couple people, so I just wanted to put it out there. It's very interesting. New York Times wrote an article about it. Wisconsin's doing it kind of all over the place. So just putting something to think about for people.
Yeah, I agree. I did not know that. I didn't know that that would help the bees out that much just by having that in
Just for that critical month.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
like we were saying, you get cited if your lawn goes over 10 inches in Niskayuna, but I don't think it would get over 10 inches in May.
No.
I think it's still compatible. It takes a little while to get it over 10 inches, but some people can do it. But yeah, it was just really interesting. So take a look at that if you have some time. We're gonna do. I appreciated. I saw that. I think Mrs. Polsinelli put our pesticide-free program in our e-newsletter that's going out. So I think that's very helpful. And hopefully we can get more people to be looking at pesticide-free lawns. And then for Climate Smart Communities Task Force, we did submit the $5,000 rebate program. I appreciate the town supervisor working with me on that. She really pulled through right at the end. It had a very short timeline to get submitted. So we submitted for getting compost bins rolled out to our residents. I know we talked about that a little bit. So that's in NYSERDA's hands now, and hopefully we get approved. And then I think I put, no, I didn't. I've got the Solarize Albany campaign, I would say 80% done. So I think that we should be able to roll that out in April likely. And that's the, if you want to purchase a little bit of solar panels in a big field to help subsidize the cost of energy in your home. And it also has a $200 signing bonus, which is nice for people. Clark's on vacation, so I don't have a great update for Architectural Review Board, but I know they've been working really hard. I think they're part of the reason that GE is adding the windows and things to that door. So they had some really good conversations with GE. It was some really good work that they did. And they've taken up a couple other little projects for people, homes in Niskayuna. So appreciative of all the work that they're doing. Linda wanted to tell you guys that the permits are starting to pick up for spring quite significantly. And then I've had a couple contractors, probably because the permits are picking up for spring, request training on New York State stretch. So the state is doing training on New York State stretch, but if I can get like a Niskayuna training, I will. I'll see if I can get that together for them. And then I don't have any updates on the Council Road sidewalk. And
Is that just kind of stalled now for design reasons, or is it a
Well-
financial thing?
so I think actually the next step, which I was just reading the minutes from last month, is that we want to have a meeting on our escrow, see what's there, what we can use. And I saw him hop off, but I really need Matt Yetto's help on this a lot.
Okay.
So
No, there's no real rush on it, but I would like to keep it moving because that would be a nice extension to get to the Hannaford Plaza from that side of it's very busy there.
I do have a variety of legal items that need to be taken care of, in a relatively timely fashion. But we can have internal discussions about that. We definitely do need some more legal help in the planning department, but I didn't list them for today.
Excellent.
Then Dennis?
All right, well, we've already talked about a land acknowledgement statement. This is the first item on the historical. The second item is the town logo, and I put together, it's in the John, did you get a copy of it? Is in the packet, a proposal for a plan to discontinue and replace Niskayuna's logo. I've been talking about this for some time, and I've been working with Supervisor Puccioni and town resident Marie Bozeman, and this idea, which I think it's an idea as time has come, since there's a couple of mistakes in the old logo that need to be fixed. But I've invited Marie Bozeman to come and speak to us. She's been involved in this for some time now, to speak to us a little bit about this project, about this idea for a project which would fall under this committee. It's a long-term project. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. So Marie, make sure your microphone's on.
There's a green light.
Okay.
It's on.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Marie Bosman, as Dennis said, and I'm speaking on behalf of the work that Dennis and Jamie Puccioni and I have started doing since last summer around correcting our town logo. Dennis, as he said, has identified historical errors in the town logo, and it's also described in this proposal that you received that he wrote. It's page 18 of your packet. And Jamie guided our thoughts in terms of process and how we could tie this work in with the official work of our town and town leadership. It also sounds to me like the work we do on the town logo might tie in with the work on the land acknowledgement statement in terms of the idea of connecting our community on a broader basis with the origins of this area and with Indigenous people, and just create more awareness around that. So there is some connection in that regard that I really appreciate. Personally, I got involved through some graduate studies and an interest in the history of our area. So I'm very appreciative to Dennis for all the work he has done and for allowing me to actually start to take part in this. As part of our work last year, preliminary work, we do have sort of a project outline of how we could approach something like this, which definitely involves community awareness, community involvement, maybe in an ideal situation later, some education that we can bring back to the schools around this logo. But as the proposal states, our sole purpose is to actually address the errors in the town logo first. The work that we did involved the research, obviously, that Dennis has completed. And that's also somewhat ongoing as we create more conversations with Indigenous people and with other members of the community. So all the learnings that we gather around this topic. We also did a small design project. Jamie connected us with the high school. The students, Honor Society students, are every year have to do a community project. So a few of them actually took on this idea of how would we redesign the logo, and we presented history to them and some ideas, and they came up with designs. So we got a little bit of experience on what it would take to start this process of how do we get the community involved in this. So that's just a little bit of background. Today, as the proposal states, we are really just here to ask this Economic Development Committee, the long name committee that I cannot pronounce. We ask your support for the current work group, which is very small, but also hopefully will be expanded with other people who are interested in this topic. We know of several people. And this work group will want to develop a resolution that we can bring to the town board regarding this logo. And I just want to point out that the sole purpose of this committee would be to deal with the errors in the logo in a careful, deliberate, and respectful manner. So that's just a brief overview. Are there any questions on the proposal or any other comments at this point?
It certainly has my support. It's something that needs to be done. Our history needs to be portrayed in a correct manner. So I certainly support your work. And I got to tell you, I bring this up again, that book Drums Along the Mohawk, you could take that second paragraph and that's kind of like the book. It really is. I don't know that it is somewhat fictional, but it really gives an accurate description of life during that time period and the way that that colonialization kind of happened around here. But thank you. What's the next step?
The next step for us is to invite more people into this work group and discuss ideas, the issues that I think that we face or the challenges that we have is one is that we really would like for this to be a community process and to figure out with more people in the room, figure out how we can make this a community process. Including Indigenous people, but not just looking back at our history, hopefully also developing a way of looking to the future. Who are we as Niskayuna? Is this a matter of just eliminating this logo or just replacing the errors on it? Or do we maybe want to work on a community groundswell of who are we? How do we like to present ourselves going into the future? Because we are Indigenous history, but not just that. We are technology and industry, but not just that. And there's more to us than maybe these elements and how can we. So I think that's the one challenge is to figure out how to make this a true community project. And we have some ideas, but need more people to work on that. And then the next point would be to come back to the town and figure out a budget for this type of thing and how that actual process will be handled in addition to who's going to make the final decision about the design. So those would be our challenges and our agenda from a high level perspective.
Well,
And
we
the
can-
resolution, I'm sorry,
Sure,
the
yeah.
resolution that we want to bring, yes.
So we can work on a resolution to get that done. Absolutely.
Yeah, so a resolution at the next town board meeting recognizing the ad hoc committee to expand the work group to include. Yeah, so a resolution. Yeah, so I mean, if you guys want, we could put that on. I'll add that to the list of resolutions to send to Elena.
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to point to number 2 on the proposal with some language around the resolution that Dennis put in there as you work on that.
Excellent.
I'll work with Dennis specifically on it. He helps me with the historic resolutions.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. That's all I got.
Yep. That's all I have too. Kevin, did you want to add anything for planning? I forgot to ask for you.
No, I think we're in pretty good shape right now. I guess, we're waiting for some stuff to come in. So I know the building department's busy, but we got a little bit of a low on applications right now. So we'll be picking up, I'm sure.
Very well. If there is nothing more for the good of the order, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
I
All right.
Any opposed? And we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.